The Western Pacific, 2:44 a.m. Tuesday. The Taiwan Strait had been at elevated tension for 11 days. What had begun as a routine PLA Navy exercise in the South China Sea had expanded in scope and scale in ways that the U.S. intelligence community had been tracking with increasing concern since the fourth day. By day 7, the exercise had involved live-fire ballistic missile tests into designated maritime zones east of Taiwan. By day 9, PLA-AFH-6N bomber formations had conducted simulated strike profiles against targets that the trajectory analysis placed in the Eastern Pacific. By day 11, the National Security Council had been in continuous session for 31 hours. The PLA's operational assessment had identified what its planning staff believed was a narrow but exploitable window. The USS Carl Vinson carrier strike group had been operating in the Philippine Sea for 12 days and was approaching the end of its on-station period. Its aircraft had accumulated high flight hours. Its Aegis destroyers had consumed a significant portion of their SM-6 magazine in the preceding week's air defense exercises, and its logistics vessel had separated 48 hours earlier to rendezvous with a supply ship 200 miles south. The USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group had departed Yokosuka 4 days earlier and was transiting toward the Philippine Sea, but was still 580 miles east of Okinawa, not yet in its optimal operating position. The window between Reagan's transit and Vinson's replenishment was, in the PLA's assessment, the narrowest point in U.S. carrier coverage in the Western Pacific in 18 months. The PLA rocket force had pre-positioned its Theater Strike Package Alpha over the preceding 6 days under the operational cover of the ongoing exercise. 44 DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missiles, the weapons Western analysts had designated as anti-ship platforms, were on their mobile transporter erector launchers in Fujian and Guangdong provinces, their terminal guidance systems updated with the Vinson Strike Group's predicted position. 31 DF-26B intermediate-range ballistic missiles were aimed at Andersen Air Force Base on Guam, their 4,000-kilometer range making Guam a catalogued target since 2015. 28 DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicles were assigned to Kadena Air Base on Okinawa, their Mach 5 plus terminal velocity and maneuvering glide profile specifically engineered to defeat the SM-3 Block 2A intercept geometry that U.S. forces had trained against for years. 19 YJ-21 anti-ship missiles were loaded on planned surface combatants operating in the South China Sea, their 1,500-kilometer range covering the Vinson Group's entire operational area, and from 3 H-6N bomber formations orbiting at 42,000 feet east of the Chinese coast. 61 CJ-20 air-launched cruise missiles were ready for release. 183 weapons. 4 target complexes. The USS Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group in the Philippine Sea. Kadena Air Base, Okinawa. Andersen Air Force Base, Guam. And the USS Ronald Reagan in transit. The PLA's strategic calculation rested on what its planners called the first salvo decision. The belief that a sufficiently large simultaneous first strike could degrade U.S. power projection in the Western Pacific below the threshold required to intervene in a strait crossing before a fait accompli was established on Taiwan. The calculation was not irrational. It rested on real capability assessments and a genuine understanding of carrier air-wing combat radius relative to the Taiwan Strait. What it underestimated was not any single system. It was the integration between systems, the speed at which SBIRS detection, cooperative engagement capability networking, and pre-authorized response protocols combined to compress the decision to intercept timeline below what PLA models had projected. The DF-21D launches from Fujian Province began at 2:44 a.m. 44 missiles in a 72-second window. From geosynchronous orbit, the SBIRS satellite covering the Western Pacific registered the first ignitions at 2:44 a.m. and had correlated all 44 tracks within 19 seconds of the last launch. The DF-26B launches from Guangdong Province began at 2:45 a.m. 31 missiles targeting Guam, their longer range requiring earlier launch to achieve coordinated time on target with the DF-21Ds. The DF-17 launches from Fujian Province targeting Kadena began at 2:46 a.m. 28 hypersonic glide vehicles, their boost glide trajectories creating thermal signatures distinct from conventional ballistic missiles. Brighter initial boost, then a maneuvering glide phase that generated continuous friction heating across the vehicle's heat shield. 104 ballistic and hypersonic launches in under 3 minutes. The SBIRS operator at the Western Pacific Monitoring Station had processed the first DF-21D cluster at 2:44 a.m. and initiated the mass launch alert before the DF-26B salvo had fully cleared its launchers. Alert transmission to Indopacom, PACIFIC, the Vinson and Reagan flag bridges, and Kadena and Andersen base commanders, 2:44 a.m. 51 seconds after the first DF-21D left its launcher. The CJ-20 cruise missile releases from the H-6N formations began at 2:47 a.m. Time to arrive at the carrier targets in the same terminal phase window as the DF-21D anti-ship missiles. The YJ-21 launches from planned surface combatants in the South China Sea began at 2:48 a.m. in the Indopacom Command Center at Camp HM Smith in Hawaii. The pre-authorized response protocol for a PLA mass launch event transmitted at 2:45 a.m., 61 seconds after first detection, before the full salvo had completed its launch window. Not a decision requiring deliberation. The protocol had been written, exercised, and pre-authorized for this precise scenario. Every commander in the Pacific Theater knew what the protocol required. Every system connected to the Cooperative Engagement Capability Network was already executing it. The Vinson Strike Group's defensive response was the most complex and the most urgent. 44 DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missiles on terminal trajectories toward a carrier and its escorts represented a saturation threat no single ship's VLS magazine could address alone. The cooperative engagement capability was sharing targeting data across every Aegis vessel in the group, the carrier's own SPY-1 radar, the 2 accompanying Arleigh Burke destroyers, and the Ticonderoga-class cruiser that anchored the group's air defense screen. Distributed targeting. Distributed engagement. The CEC was not a communications system. It was a unified engagement architecture that treated every launcher in the group as a single distributed weapon system. SM-3 Block 2A launches from the cruiser and both destroyers began at 2:47 a.m. The Vinson Group's magazine state, partially depleted from the preceding week's exercises, meant the first SM-3 salvo numbered 21 interceptors, not the full capacity the group would have fielded at full readiness. 21 SM-3S against 44 DF-21D warheads. The first engagement layer was not designed to solve the problem alone. It was designed to reduce it to a scale the second and third layers could handle. 16 of the 21 SM-3 launches achieved mid-course intercept. 5 DOIF-21D warheads survived the SM-3 layer and entered the SM-6 terminal engagement envelope. SM-6 launched in a rapid salvo sequence. 8 missiles, engaging the 5 surviving DF-21D threats with priority allocation, plus coverage against the leading edge of the YJ-21 anti-ship missiles now entering from the south. 4 of the 5 DF-21D warheads were intercepted by SM-6. 1 DF-21D warhead, maneuvering in its terminal phase with a trajectory the engagement algorithm classified as outside its nominal parameters, survived to SeaRAM range. SeaRAM engaged at 2:51 a.m. 2 missiles. The warhead was neutralized at 1.6 kilometers from the carrier's port quarter. Fragments from the high-altitude detonation scattered across 400 meters. No fragments reached the carrier. The 2 escorting destroyers were within the fragment scatter radius. 1 destroyer's radar mast sustained minor damage to an auxiliary antenna array. the ship remained combat effective. The 19 YJ-21 anti-ship missiles from the PLAN surface combatants were engaged by SM-6 and carrier Air Wing F/A-18E/F aircraft simultaneously. The carrier's air wing, which had been at heightened alert posture since the third day of the expanded PLA exercise, had 8 aircraft airborne on combat air patrol at 2:44 a.m. 12 additional aircraft launched within 9 minutes of the alert. 13 YJ-21 missiles were intercepted by SM-6 at extended ranges. 4 were intercepted by carrier air wing aircraft. 2 reached SeaRAM engagement range. Both were intercepted at 2:53 a.m. The 61 CJ-20 cruise missiles from the H-6N formations required a different response. Launching from 42,000 feet at 600 kilometers range on mixed altitude trajectories between 200 and 4,000 meters, designed to complicate engagement geometry for both sea-based and airborne intercept assets. /A-18F aircraft from the Vinson Air Wing engaged the salvo with AIM-120D-AMRAAM at beyond visual range. 22 CJ-20 missiles intercepted by carrier air wing aircraft. 17 engaged by SM-6. 12 CJ-20 missiles survived all intercept attempts and impacted in water within the carrier group's defensive perimeter. Their terminal seekers degraded by EA-18G Growler, jamming from precision accuracy to a circular error, placing impacts 200 to 800 meters from intended aim points. No U.S. vessel was struck. By 2:55 a.m., 11 minutes after the first PLA launch, the Vinson Strike Group had absorbed a 124-weapon salvo against its task force and remained combat effective. 1 destroyer with minor antenna damage. No personnel injured. No vessels non-operational. The carrier had not altered its flight operations tempo. The Kadena engagement was running simultaneously. 28 DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicles targeting Kadena presented the most technically demanding defensive problem of the engagement. The DF-17's boost glide trajectory, a conventional ballistic boost followed by a maneuvering hypersonic glide at Mach 5 to Mach 10, was engineered to defeat the SM-3 Block 2A's engagement envelope. The SM-3's intercept geometry assumes a predictable ballistic trajectory. Against a weapon that transitions to glide at 60 to 80 kilometers altitude and then maneuvers laterally at hypersonic velocity, the targeting solution becomes unreliable. The THAAD battery at Kadena had been specifically reconfigured over 8 months to address the DF-17 threat, incorporating flight test data from observed DF-17 tests and revised intercept algorithms targeting the weapon at its boost-to-glide transition point, the moment of maximum predictability before the vehicle committed to lateral maneuvering. THAAD engaged the DF-17 salvo at 2:50 a.m. 14 of the 28 hypersonic glide vehicles were intercepted in the first THAAD salvo, a 50% intercept rate that the battery's pre-engagement planning had assessed as the realistic upper bound against maneuvering hypersonic threats. 14 DF-17 warheads survived the THAAD layer. PAC-3 MSE batteries at Kadena's perimeter engaged the surviving 14 at terminal phase. 9 were intercepted. 5 DF-17 warheads impacted within Kadena Air Base. The 5 impacts were not random. 3 landed on or near the runway complex. 1 impact on the primary runway's center section created a crater 4 meters deep and 11 meters wide, requiring 18 to 24 hours of repair under optimal conditions. 1 impact severed the taxiway connector between the main ramp and the runway threshold. 1 struck the western parallel taxiway. 2 impacts struck non-runway areas, a maintenance apron and open ground near the fuel storage perimeter. Kadena's primary runway was non-operational. Its aircraft were not. The F-15C/D and F-35A squadrons had been in hardened shelters since Day 4 of the PLA exercise. 0 aircraft were damaged. The runway damage prevented immediate launch from home base. It did not remove those aircraft from the fight. Within 22 minutes, PACAF was coordinating emergency forward operating locations at Misawa and Chitose under the dispersal plan exercised specifically for this contingency. Kadena's aircraft would fly again, from different runways, on a timeline measured in hours, not days. The Guam engagement was the most geographically distant and the most one-sided. 31 DF-26B intermediate-range ballistic missiles targeting Andersen Air Force Base had a flight time of approximately 22 minutes from their launch positions in Guangdong Province. The THAAD battery at Andersen, the most capable ground-based terminal defense in the Pacific outside of the continental U.S., had been tracking the DF-26B launches from SBIRS data since 2:45 a.m., 11 minutes before the first warheads entered its engagement envelope. 11 minutes of preparation time. The battery's fire control team had solution packages for all 31 incoming tracks before the first SM-3 intercept at Kadena had even engaged. SM-3 Block 2A from a guided missile destroyer positioned in the Philippine Sea as part of Guam's ballistic missile defense screen engaged the DF-26B salvo at mid-course. 19 SM-3 intercepts. 16 achieved neutralization. 15 DF-26B warheads survived to THAAD engagement range over Guam. THAAD engaged all 15. 12 were intercepted. 3 DF-26B warheads reached PAC-3MSE terminal engagement range. 2 were intercepted by PAC-3MSE. 1 DF-26B warhead impacted Andersen Air Force Base at 3:07 a.m. The impact was on the eastern taxiway extension, 340 meters from the primary runway. The runway was undamaged. Andersen remained fully operational. B-52H bombers that had been on alert at Andersen, and which had been the primary intended target of the DF-26B battery, had been airborne since 2:30 a.m. when the alert posture was elevated. They had been in the air for 37 minutes when the DF-26B warhead impacted their former parking positions. By 3:10 a.m., 26 minutes after the first PLA launch, the opening PLA strike had been largely addressed. Of 183 weapons launched, 164 had been intercepted across multiple defensive layers. 19 had achieved some form of effect. 3 runway and taxiway impacts at Kadena, 1 taxiway impact at Andersen, 1 carrier group destroyer antenna damage, and 14 CJ-20 cruise missile water impacts within the carrier group defensive perimeter. 1 runway non-operational, 0 aircraft lost on the ground, 0 U.S. vessels non-operational, 0 U.S. personnel seriously injured. 4 personnel at Kadena sustained minor injuries from debris during the impact sequence, all treated and returned to duty. In the Indopacom Command Center and the Carrier Flag Bridge simultaneously, the counter-operation had been activating since 2:45 a.m. The designation, Pacific Meridian. A pre-planned response architecture that had been updated 4 times in the preceding 18 months as the PLA Rocket Force's order of battle evolved. 241 aim points across 156 PLA military installations, PLARF mobile launcher operating areas, H-6N bomber bases, PLAN surface combatant positions, coastal radar and command infrastructure, and the satellite ground stations and over-the-horizon radar facilities that provided the targeting data the PLA's anti-ship missiles depended on. The B-52H bombers that had launched from Andersen at 2:30 a.m. received their Pacific Meridian strike packages at 3:11 a.m. Each carried 12 JASSMER missiles. Combined payload from 4 aircraft, 48 JASSMER inbound to PLA Rocket Force infrastructure in Fujian and Guangdong provinces. B-1 Lancers from Guam's alert rotation contributed an additional 60 JASSMER from 3 aircraft. Combined first-wave air-launched cruise missile count, 108 weapons. By minute 28 from first PLA launch, U.S. munitions expenditure had reached $892 million in SM-3 and SM-6 interceptors, $287 million in PAC-3 SeaRAM, and AMRAAM defensive ordnance, and was adding $146.9 million in JAS-SMER offensive ordnance, 108 missiles at $1.36 million each. Running total, $1.326 billion. 2B, two Spirit bombers operating from Diego Garcia received updated Pacific Meridian tasking at 3:15 a.m. Their assigned targets: the PLARF Command Bunker Complex at Luquan in Yunnan Province, 52 meters underground, 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators allocated, and the PLA Strategic Support Force Satellite Ground Station near Weinan in Shanxi Province, which provided the space-based targeting data for the DF-21D anti-ship guidance system. Without the Weinan station's data feed, surviving DF-21D launchers would be operating on degraded targeting. EA-18G Growlers had been in their jamming orbits since 2:49 a.m., targeting the coastal radar network that fed terminal guidance data to PLA anti-ship missiles. The PLAAF Coastal Air Defense Network began experiencing radar degradation within 6 minutes of Growler activation. U.S. Cybercom began executing pre-positioned intrusion sequences against PLA Rocket Force Command software at 2:52 a.m., targeting the communication links between PLA REF headquarters and the mobile launcher battalions. The launchers had fired their initial salvo. The question was whether they could be prevented from reloading and firing a second. The PLARF mobile launcher battalions in Fujian and Guangdong provinces had begun their post-launch displacement within seconds of the first DF-21D leaving its canister. Standard doctrine for mobile missile operations. They would need approximately 40 minutes to reach their pre-surveyed reload positions, complete the reload sequence, and achieve launch readiness for a second salvo. The JASSM-ER first wave reached the PLARF operating areas at 3:24 a.m. The mobile launchers were in transit. Their fixed support infrastructure, survey equipment, command vehicles, fuel storage, maintenance facilities, and the hardened magazine positions where reload missiles were stored was not in transit. Could not be. 41 of the 48 PLARF infrastructure aim points in Fujian and Guangdong received JASSM-ER engagement between 3:24 and 3:41 a.m. 7 aim points were in locations where terrain masking had degraded the JAS-SMER's terminal guidance acquisition, a limitation the strike package planners had documented and accepted. The B-2s would address the hardened bunker targets. The mobile launchers themselves remained a problem that no single strike package could fully resolve. This was the acknowledged limitation of the Pacific Meridian architecture. Mobile missiles are mobile. What Pacific Meridian could do was deny them their support infrastructure, degrade their command connectivity, and force them to operate in an environment where every reload position was a potential target. An army that cannot communicate reliably, cannot resupply efficiently, and cannot predict when its next position will be known is not a defeated army. It is a substantially degraded one. The GBU-57 engagement of the PLARF command bunker at Luquan occurred at 3:47 a.m. 2 MOPs. The first penetrated 49 meters before detonating. The second followed 11 seconds later. The facility that had coordinated Theater Strike Package Alpha's launch sequence ceased to function as a command node. PLARF regional commanders in Fujian and Guangdong lost their primary command link at 3:47 a.m. At 3:51 a.m., the adversary attempted its reserve contingency, a plan type 094. A submarine operating in the Philippine Sea, which had been tracking the Vinson strike group for 6 days at a distance of approximately 90 miles, received an emergency action message at 3:49 a.m., ordering it to engage the carrier with its YJ-18 submarine-launched anti-ship missiles. The message had been transmitted through the plan's ELF submarine communication system, the only system that could reliably reach a submerged submarine. The P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft that had been maintaining a barrier patrol east of the Vinson Group since 2:30 a.m. had been tracking a contact consistent with the Type 094A's acoustic signature for 41 minutes. The contact had been categorized as a likely submarine at 3:22 a.m., and an MH-60R helicopter from the Vinson had been vectored to the contact position at 3:31 a.m. The MH-60R's dipping sonar confirmed the contact at 3:38 a.m. The submarine had not yet received its emergency action message. It received it 11 minutes later. The Type 094A's launch sequence for YJ-18 requires the submarine to come to periscope depth and complete a pre-launch communication and targeting update sequence before weapons release. The submarine began its ascent at 3:51 a.m. The MH-60R was holding at 2,400 feet, 1.8 miles from the contact position. As the submarine rose toward periscope depth at 3:53 a.m., the MH-60R's sonar operator confirmed the contact's depth change. The helicopter deployed its Mark 54 torpedo at 3:54 a.m. The torpedo acquired the contact. The Type 094A did not reach periscope depth. It did not complete its launch sequence. It did not fire. By 4:02 a.m., the primary engagement phases of Pacific Meridian were completing their first wave. The Reagan Carrier Strike Group, now 440 miles east of Okinawa and accelerating toward its operating position, had been targeted by a second wave DF-21D salvo that the surviving PLARF launchers in Fujian Province had managed to coordinate after the loss of their primary command link at 3:47 a.m. 17 DF-21D missiles launched from surviving mobile launchers between 3:52 and 4:01 a.m. A degraded, disorganized follow-on strike, lacking the geometric coordination of the initial Alpha package. The Reagan Group's full SM-3 magazine, at complete readiness, not partially depleted like the Vinson Group at the start of the engagement, engaged the 17 inbound DF-21D tracks. 14 were intercepted at mid-course. 3 survived to SM-6 engagement range. All 3 were intercepted. The Reagan Group sustained no damage. Final first phase weapon impact under Pacific Meridian logged at 4:09 a.m., 85 minutes after the first PLA launch. Time from first PLA launch to first U.S. intercept, 3 minutes. Time from detection to counter-operation initiation, 27 minutes. Time from first launch to final U.S. weapon impact, 85 minutes. PLA weapons launched in first wave, 183. Intercepted, 164, 89.6%. Achieving effect, 10.4%. 3 runway and taxiway impacts at Kadena, 1 taxiway impact at Andersen, 1 destroyer antenna damage, 14 CJ-20 water impacts within carrier group perimeter, 4 minor injuries at Kadena. U.S. installations rendered non-operational. Kadena primary runway. Estimated repair time 18 to 24 hours. Aircraft lost on the ground, 0. U.S. vessels non-operational, 0. U.S. personnel with serious injuries, 0. Pacific Meridian aim points engaged in first wave, 156. Confirmed neutralized, 131 of 156, 84%. PLARF infrastructure in Fujian and Guangdong, 41 of 48 aim points engaged. PLARF primary command node, neutralized. PLA targeting satellite ground station at Wainan, engaged, assessed 73% functional degradation. H6, N bomber bases, 6 of 8 airfield infrastructure aim points engaged. Type 094A submarine, non-operational. U.S. munitions expended through first phase, $2.14 billion. PLA military infrastructure replacement value assessed degraded, $11.3 to $14.7 billion. Exchange ratio, approximately 1 to 5.3. The PLA's first salvo decision had been built on accurate assessments of individual U.S. system limitations. The DF-17 had performed as designed against SM-3. The hypersonic glide trajectory had defeated the mid-course intercept geometry. The DF-21D magazine had exceeded the Vinson Group's full SM-3 capacity at its depleted state. The CJ-20 salvo had reached the carrier group's inner defense zone. On every individual vector, the PLA's technical analysis had been largely correct. Kadena's runway had been hit. The math had worked. What the math had not accounted for was the space between the numbers. The Vinson Group's SM-3 magazine was partially depleted, but the CEC allowed it to draw on Reagan's targeting data before Reagan was in range to fire. The DF-17 had defeated SM-3 geometry, but THAAD at Kadena had been specifically reconfigured for DF-17 engagement over 8 months. The CJ-20 had reached the carrier group's inner zone, but Growler jamming had degraded its terminal accuracy enough that water impacts replaced hull impacts. The B-52HS had been the primary DF-26B target, but they were airborne before the first warhead reached its apogee. The first salvo decision had assumed that getting the math right on each individual system would produce the intended aggregate outcome. It had not. The aggregate outcome was produced by the integration between systems, the depth of the layered architecture, and the 30-year investment in precisely the capabilities that the PLA's technical analysis had attempted to root around. The runway at Kadena could be repaired in 18 hours. The PLARF command infrastructure that had taken a decade to build had been engaged in 41 minutes. 85 minutes. The window the PLA had identified as its opportunity had closed before the first JASSMER reached its target. The Taiwan contingency that Theater Strike Package Alpha was designed to enable had not been enabled. It had been answered. The answer had cost $2.14 billion. The question had cost considerably more than that. In every currency that matters,